Hello and welcome to another episode of On the Floor with Wayne and Rob. I'm Wayne Highlander, National Sales Manager for Bona Adhesives.
And I'm Rob Johnson from Bona Training.
How we doing, Rob?
Pretty good, bud. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
I think you need to clear your throat.
Me?
Yeah, give yourself a good throat clear. Or is there something wrong with my microphone?
It must be your microphone. I'm fine.
Or the headphones.
Whatever. So, today we have a special guest, and I think this will be an interesting topic for our audience. Is about retail stores and starting a retail store and coming from being a contractor and moving towards being a retail store owner. Our special guest today is Ken Petersen. He's with Woody's Hardwood Floors Limited. And Ken, I know you've been, since 1994 in Calgary, British Columbia, in that area.
Yeah, we've had 94 is when we opened our first retail in Calgary, but I started wood floors in 86 in the East Coast where I was raised. So I started my first retail store in probably about, I would say 91. Wasn't long after we got going contracting. So we started our first retail there. Then we sold out and then moved to the West Coast.
Gotcha. So you've actually been installing since the late 80s though, right?
86 is my first floor that we've installed. Yeah.
A lot of experience there. And I want to give Wood Floor Business Magazine credit for this. You wrote an article in that magazine and when I read it, it resonated with me so quickly. Just one thing that you said in that article, I thought, yep, I've thought the same thing. And something to the effect of, if you're a contractor and you're going into owning a retail store, the best thing that can happen to you is that you hurt your back so you can't do floors anymore. And I used to say, when I was doing floors and I wanted to grow and get bigger and perhaps do a retail store, is that I think I'd be better off if my knees hurt so bad I couldn't do floors anymore. It wasn't even an option.
Yeah, you're right there. Yeah, no, it is. It's the truth. I don't know what it is, but if every flooring contractor, every guy that's swung a hammer or sanded a floor, seems like they always want to have their own retail outlet. They want to sell their own floor. They want to do their own thing. And hey, hats off to them. That's how we all grow and get bigger and do things. But it's one business. This wood flooring business is one thing that it's a tough grind, and you better know what you're doing when you change careers. So yeah, so in that article, as well as other meetings we've had, I always tell guys, best thing you can do is hurt your back. I know a guy that started a retail outlet and broke his Achilles tendon right off the bat. As soon as he started, and he said, I'm devastated. I thought that was the end of my retail. But he says it was the best thing that ever happened, because he said, I learned to rely on my guys. I learned to rely on my guys to do everything. And then I learned that I had to push pencil and I had to organize. And it taught me, sitting in that desk with a broken Achilles tendon, it taught me how to organize. And he says, that was a saving grace for my flooring store.
That lure to go back out with your tools and work is very strong, because it's there. Yeah, go ahead.
I tell you, the problem is, the reason you want to get into retail is because you're good at what you do. You're good at installing, you're good at finishing. And when you'll get a customer come in the door and you look at the plans and you look at the job and you say, man, that's a good job. I'm going to get that job. And that customer just walked through 3 flooring stores and you're the 4th one. And you're the newest guy on the block. So there's only one way you're going to get that job. And that's either a referral or you be the cheapest. So the first thing the installer says is, man, I'll install it myself. I'll install it for myself, and I'll knock a little bit of money off too. And I'll get this job. And now all of a sudden you're devastated because your flooring store is suffering. Your rent is still there. Your overhead is still there. You're out installing a floor that could be going sideways halfway through the job, but you got to stay there. Meanwhile, the phones ring. It's a downward spiral from there. We have seen it so many times, and that's why I spent a lot of coffee shop talks with guys and telling them, like, go for it, do it. But I'll tell you this, change your career. You are a changed career. Like, you're not a flooring installer anymore. Yeah. You know, I can tell you, we manufacture here and sell to some retail outlets. We don't want to categorize everybody, but you know, I got a guy that's calling me right now from Florida. He wants to open 2 flooring stores. I said, oh, that's nice. I said, what's your history? He said, well, I'm an installer. I know my stuff. I've been installing for 25 years. I said, well, I'm not interested. He said, what? I said, I'm not interested in selling your product. Why is that? I know you have a good product. I want to, your success rate is so low that I don't want to sell your product because I don't want to get stuck. I don't want to get stung. And I says, you still telling me about your installs and how you installed the biggest floor and how you installed the nicest, that's gone. You are a businessman. I can tell you our most successful flooring companies that we sell floors to are guys that they're businessmen. They don't really know everything about install. They really don't know everything about finishing, but they're a businessman. And that's a tough thing for a tradesman to become a businessman. But it can be done. I did it. I fell on my face a few times, but I did it, and lots have. But it's a tough go.
And that's one thing I've come to realize too, when I moved to my role as a sales rep and now sales manager, that it's been surprising to me that how many successful retail store owners that I know have never done floors in their life. They're business people.
Yeah.
And so, and you're speaking, well, the reason why I like you on here, because you're speaking from experience.
Yeah.
I mean, you came from both sides of the world. So how do you change that mentality? Because you have to, you got to change your way of thinking altogether, right?
So here's an analogy that I come up with a while ago, because, you know, when we were running crews, when we had Woody's flying in Calgary, we were running 37 crews. We were doing an average of 9 to 12 houses a day. We were going through 80,000 square feet of wood a month. So we moved volume. We did 276 builders. We controlled about 23% of the hardwood floors that were going through that city. And the city was over 1 million people. So we moved a lot of product. A lot of guys come through our doors and we work for us. So here's something that I've told them all. I get guys come to me. I said, just be honest with me. If you want to go on your own, come to me, talk to me. I'll tell you the pros and cons. So here's something that I tell the guys. I don't know if they listen or not, but I do know it works. And it not only works in the wood floor business, but it works in all service business. If you're an installer or a finisher, let's say a sanding and finishing guy. So you're a sanding and finishing guy, and you're working hard with your helper, and you've got a good reputation, and work's piling up. And if you do good work, you will get busier. That's just this business. So the first thing that comes to your mind is, I need another crew. I need to get another crew going. So you lay out the money for the van and the tools and everything. So now just say when you were working with your helper, you were getting $100 a day. That's what you're making, $100 a day, just for round numbers. Now you brought on a second crew, but now you can only make 75 bucks a day because you're managing that second crew. And that second crew, you got to pay them guys. So you're only making a 25% or a $25 margin off them guys. So that crew is making you 25 bucks a day. Because you're working your own crew, you're making 75 bucks a day now. So you're making the same amount of money you're making when you had your work by yourself. So work keeps piling up. You get busier. I got to get another crew. So you bring that third crew on. Now you got 3 crews, yourself, the other 2 crews. They're each making you 25 bucks a day, but you're managing 3 crews now. Estimating, collecting, bills, touch-ups, it goes on and on. So you're only making 50 bucks a day because half your time is managing the other 2 crews. So you're still only making 100 bucks a day. So that happens for the third crew, the fourth crew, the fifth. Now all of a sudden you've got 4 crews and yourself. So you got 5 crews, but you can't work anymore. You got 4 crews. Your day is run ragged because you have 4 crews to take care of. You're estimating, you're collecting money, you're doing touch-ups, you're fixing this, you're touching up that, you're fixing a Hummel, you're fixing a edger, you're running around, right? So you're only making 100 bucks a day. because each crew is giving you $25 a day, but you can't, your production's done.
With a lot more liability too, I should say.
So 4 times the receivables, 4 times the payables, 4 times the headaches.
Mhm.
So usually about this time, most contractors say, I'm done. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And they do one of two things. They scale back to themselves, or they go broke. And when they go broke, all the local wholesalers and everybody that supported them feels the pinch too. So that's the biggest thing that you guys got to be careful of. Now, how do you get past that? Well, it can be done. When we were running big crew, one guy could run up to 6, 7, 8 crews himself. No, without a problem. So but you got to understand, you're done working. You're not working anymore. You're not touching tools. You are man, and you better have a good bookkeeper. You better have a good accounting service, and you better not cheat your numbers. Because I don't know if the US is like Canada. Revenue Canada doesn't lose. So you got to know where you're at, and you got to know where you're at every single day. Right now, we're probably top heavy on accounting, just because I've learned my lesson. Like we've been there. We've got spanked, but there is another way around it though. You can keep going, and you can go to 4 crews, 5 crews, 6 crews, 7 crews, and manage them yourself. But you have to be a career change. It has to be a career change. When I sold Woody's out in Calgary, and then I come to Kelowna here to never ever do to never ever do hardwood floors again in my entire life, and here we are doing wood floors. But when I started installing, sanding, finishing, and then we went on to manufacturing and retail and everything else. But I vowed that I'm too short. I'm too old and fat and lazy anyways to do it anyways. But I vowed I am not touching tools. I won't. The only floor I laid was my daughter's house, but I just won't do it. And if you can discipline yourself, then it gives you the freedom to be able to manage. And that's the key. It's a proven fact. It's no joke that it's less than 10% success rate of flooring companies that open up as a flooring contractors. Less than 10% make it. It's not.
So if you're out managing all your crews,
yeah,
who's managing your store?
Well, that's the whole thing. So I'm just talking about if you're building crews. Now, if you want to open a store, you better be running a lot of crews. You better be running a lot of guys. The only reason I have 2 retail outlets right now, like showrooms, is because we manufacture. There's no way I'd open a showroom if I had to buy the same product from the same wholesaler as the carpet store across the road and try to sell it. I wouldn't do it, because the only way you can beat them is you have to be cheaper, or you have to have a reputation. Well, you can't have your reputation because you're new at the game. So opening a store we call it the cancer. You just created a cancer, and it's eating at you every day. And but like opening a store, like we're looking at our store in Calgary right now. We're saying, the showroom is not the expense. $3,000 a month, I can have my showroom. But every person I put in there is $5,000 a month, and I give them a sales car and a gas card and a commission on every job they make. And you have to have 2 salespeople to run the store, because one person can't be there all the time. How are they going to do their estimates and everything else? So you got 2 salespeople. So all of a sudden that store is $20,000 a month just to break even. Well, $3,000 was a showroom. That's a small part of it. And that's the problem. Every guy drives by a mini strip mall and says, man, I could rent that place for $2,500 a month. I got my own store. Okay, how are you going to staff it? Who's going to keep the lights and everything on? What about your sales cars? What about your estimators? What about your commissions? That's the killer. So it's and back to the same old thing. Installer looks at it and says, $2,500 a month, man. I make that in the first 6-7 days of my week, of my month, to cover my rent, but do all the rest of the numbers, add everything else up. And all of a sudden you've got a big burden that you got to carry every month. And the problem is, then they get into it and then they say, man, I got to get these jobs. I got to lower my price. Now you lower your price. Now you're working cheap. Now you're working cheap. Now the wolf is, well, you have one screw up and you can't afford it. I got a job right now. It went sideways. Like you get jobs go sideways. That's this business. I got a job right now. It's a $42,000 job. It's sideways. It went sideways. And now we're in a push-pull match on this job. No, we'll sort it out. I've learned in the long run, you just back off a while, let the customer calm down, and then go out and sit down with them, talk to them, figure it out, come to an agreement. But they're sitting on $25,000 of my money. Well, if you're running things really, really, really tight, well, you're in trouble. You're in trouble, big trouble.
I think also the game has changed, and I think this is an important distinction that's kind of related to this, and I think it goes to setting yourself up for success or failure. In the past, you needed a website to support your retail store. Now you need your retail store to support your website. If you're doing things, if you're really, really touching a lot of people and what have you, and I think that can help you a lot. I think that with COVID, I saw an 84-year-old lady at a diner open up her cell phone and using a QR code and showing the other lady how to use a QR code to look at the menu. That's how people are buying now. So I think you also have to look at, if you're not on that side of the business, if you're not really savvy on that, I think that can also put you behind the 8 ball, because technology's changed.
Absolutely. Hey, I tell you what, we tell people here, we're a marketing company that does hardwood floors. Mm-hmm. So we're big in marketing. Our Google stuff is bang on up to date. I have a guy that he doesn't work for, we hire him to do but we are bang up to date on all our Google stuff. And I can tell you this, there's only 2 advertisements I do. Only 2 ways of advertising. And one is I do billboards for the drive-by. And the only reason I do billboard is for branding. Mm-hmm. So to put that Woodies and that bird into their head every time they drive by. But the only other advertisement we do is Google. Google's the largest advertiser in the world, and they're not even an advertising company. But it's Google. So the way we do it, it's no secret. I tell you exactly what we do it. We hit the billboards to put it into their head. So nobody drives down the road, looks at our billboard and says, "Hey, honey, we should get hardwood floors." No, it doesn't happen that way. But what they do is they're home sitting on their couch in the evening, and he says, "We should look at getting new wood floors." Yeah. First thing they do, they grab their laptop or their iPhone and they go, boom, boom, hardwood floors, Kelowna, punch it in. Oh, we got both 6 company. Oh, Woodies, we know them. Well, you don't know us, but you've seen our billboard every day on the way to work and back. Instantly, who's going to get the first call?
Yeah,
we'll get that first call.
There's what they call the 10-2 rule, and they figure now consumers will spend 10 hours on the internet researching and 2 hours shopping. Yep. Where they used to go like to 2.8 stores before making a purchases. Now I think it's 1.2 stores. Yeah, which is the millennials, which is now up into the 40s. And it's going to grow. It's going to be a bigger audience than that even. So, yeah. I mean, I think it's such an important part of the business. There is one person who I know that seemed to master this whole thing with retail stores, and it's Rob Johnson. You want to tell him how successful your operation was, Rob?
So you want to talk about the Wood Floor Corner? That was the name of our store, Wood Floor Corner. It's funny because you were saying, how you going to staff it? So I got my partner and our 2 wives together, and we were doing a lot of work, and our name was getting pretty good. So I said, we got to have a store. Found a place right on the corner in Main Street, so it was good drive-by traffic and everything. And everybody was saying to me, how are we going to staff it? I go, the hell you mean how we're going to staff it? There's 4 of us. We'll be able to cover this. No problem. he had kids, I had kids, but I said, no, the wives will do it. We'll work. Wow, was that ever? We ended up being open Saturdays and Sundays, and we tried to do nights, and then we tried to do just calling in, and it ended up really being like a hangout for our buddies to come and drink beer and watch the games and stuff. And it was that was a complete disaster, absolute disaster. One of the biggest mistakes I ever made. But we were trying to run a store and go out every day and do the business and do the estimating and everything. So it just didn't work.
The retail stores are, and it's not the rent. You probably never had a problem paying the rent. At the rent
Never.
was the problem.
No. Actually, I think we were ticking people off more than we would have if we didn't have the store, because all we heard was, "Yeah, we stopped by the store, nobody was there. You weren't open. You're never open. What are your hours?"
Yeah.
That was just, we thought we'd be able to cover it at night, maybe, or the girls could cover it, but no, we found out that right away you need to have regular store hours, maybe even go a little late into the night.
The only thing I can say now, though, is I can tell you, because we make a high-end product, and we're not an impulse product. Like, everybody that buys our product has Googled it. They've done their homework. They didn't just drive by and then walk in and say, "Hey, didn't see you guys before here. Well, how much is the?" Most people that come through our store have either emailed us, called us, or texted us already. And that is a bit of a benefit now. I can tell you that for every customer that does a $4,000 purchase, they have Googled or searched you or LinkedIn or done something 5 times before they even made a phone call to you. For anything over a $4,000 purchase, they've tried. Hey, we do it too. We'll have somebody come into our shop. It's kind of funny because Tim and I'll sit there and they'll come in and they'll spiel like an interior designer or something. And I'm this, I'm that, I can do this, I can do that. And she hasn't hit the door, and we both punching her name into Google. Like, boom, 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 boom. Who is she? Is she legit? Is she what she says she is? Is he what he says he is? Has he done what he said? That's shit. And we just look at each other, we start laughing, like, what the heck? We're both doing this, that. See, the tool is right there at your fingertips to find out about anybody and anything, right? So the same thing with a store. Now, that was the case for years. Like, everything, hey, the only advertising we did for years was Yellow Pages and our vans. That's it. But it's a different game now. I can tell you, even on we used to do a house. We used to do a floor on a house, and we automatically, we'd get 2 or 3 calls for estimates on that street, and the first thing they'd say is, "Hey, you just did Bert's floor, man. Does it look nice? Can you come up and give us a quote?" Nowadays, 25 years, 30 years later, we'll get that same phone call. Yes. And they'll give their address, and that's it. So we'll go do an estimate and we'll say to them, "Oh, we just done a job 4 doors up 2 weeks ago." And the customer say, "Yeah, we seen your vans, or we seen your sandwich board." "Oh yeah, did you stop in and take a look at it?" "Oh, no. We would never." "Did you call the homeowner? Did you stop in and ask them what our?" No. But do you know what they did? They read every one of my Google reviews. Every one of them. But they would never go over to that homeowner and say, "Hey, how did you make out with Woody's? Was their floor good? Did they do good work?" Nope, they won't do it. They'll rather go on Google reviews and then search the heck out of you on the internet, and then they'll make a phone call. It's a different game now.
Okay, so a couple things. One is like this is not intended to be like negative, to like deflate somebody's dreams or whatever. But I think you could also save a lot of people from heartache. Number one. Number two is, I remember in 2007 when the economy crashed, and I would talk to different contractors, and it was 2 different camps. One group would say, "Man, I should have opened up a showroom. Now I'm slow. There's no work." And the other person would say, "You know what? I opened up this showroom. I said, well, I should never have done it. I'm losing money on this and blah, blah, blah. But, as you say, the game has changed now. And so what does work? What, I mean, I don't think there's any shame in working out of your warehouse at home and staying small and I'll say that my brothers have done that and have no desire to grow. They could have had many, many more people than they have working for them now, and they have no desire to. And I actually think it's a smart business plan in a lot of ways.
Well, I'll tell you what we're doing. We've rocked the boat pretty bad here for contractors in Kelowna because it's a smaller market. But in Calgary, with 1.4 million people, there's a lot. We have quite a few contractors that we have no prices on any of our samples, and they know where they're manufactured. So, like I know two different contractors right now. They'll call up our sales girl there, and they'll say, "Janine, I have a customer coming in there. Could you show them this, this, and this?" And yeah, absolutely. And so when they come in, they say, "Hey, could I see?" Yeah, no problem. See this, show all the stuff. And then we give that contractor, of course, a reduced price. But customer doesn't talk price to us, but we're letting them use our showroom. We just want to move product. We want to move product. That's all we want to do. And I don't care. It doesn't matter to me who the customer is or who I sell it to. So we have contractors, the foreign contractors that use our showroom and then we sell them the wood, and then they go ahead and do the job. We don't have nothing to do with the job. So I encourage that a lot. And even the wholesalers, like, I don't know, if I was a wholesaler and I had I would put a showroom in and tell all my customers in the wholesale, there's a showroom for you. Use it. And that way because all the wholesaler wants to do is move product. But it sure helps the contractor.
We have a distributor here in Albany. That's how he does it. He has a really nice showroom, and everybody knows you send their customers there. They never talk price. They don't have prices on any of the samples or anything like that, but they got a really nice showroom, and it's geared just exactly for that, for their contractors to send their homeowners. Sometimes they'll meet them there, and then sometimes they'll say, "Hey, stop by here. They're open 5 days a week. Stop by anytime and, talk to one of these two guys," and they'll take it from there. So
No,
that's a
smart way of doing
really
it.
nice way to, absolutely.
And so we encourage that with our showrooms, same thing. Like, we'll sell wholesale to the contract. But, I also have a lot of contractors. I have a lot of all over Western Canada, guys that even used to work for us, but guys that are really good operators, and they work out of their garage, and they have a good clientele, and they do good work, and they work by themselves, or maybe one crew helping them. And they'll call me up and say, "Ken, I got a 7.5-inch white oak floor that I need, but I need like a mocha stain on it. Can you fire me some samples up?" No problem. So I'll just tell Colin in the back, "Hey, Colin, run 2-foot boards for mocha stain. We're going to send it off to so-and-so." Okay. Next day, we pure later to him. He's got it in front of his customer within about 3 or 4 days. And then lots of times that doesn't work on the first go. He'll call me up and say, "Ken, it works, but we need 2 shades lighter." No problem. Run 2 boards, ship them up. What, $25, $30 to ship each time? It's the cheapest showroom he's ever had. And he's got a product that nobody else around him has. But that's partly why we decided to start manufacturing and finishing is because I think there's room for the little manufacturer that does specialty stuff to service the contractors.
So we talk about, we're going to have a conversation here with Sprig Lynn on another show coming up soon. We'll talk about how important relationships are. And you see retailers and guys that work in their garage, let's say, are two different audiences altogether, and sometimes they miss each other, and sometimes they resent each other, but they really could work together very well, and to both their benefits.
Absolutely, absolutely, for sure, yeah. But it's the same old thing. There's the one contractor who wants everything, and the other contractor who charges his right price and makes margins. And it's hard to school everybody on everything, but I do know, going back to the showroom and how to, on how to build crews, multiple crews, when we started building multiple crews and having a showroom and doing what we did every day with as many houses, I did realize that you need dispatchers, you need guys to run crews. And I tried to bring in a sanding guy to do that, and that was a disaster. All he wanted to do was reteach everybody and retrain everybody and had to do it his way. So then I brought an installer in. It was the same thing. He didn't want to be there, and they didn't want to listen to him because he was just an installer. So what I did was, I looked at all the builders I did, and I thought, who's the best project manager of all these builders? And a guy's name come to my head, and I phoned him up next day. I says, hey, will you come work for me? He says, doing what? I says, dispatching crews. He says, I work for a builder. I'm a project manager. As well, when you get pissed off, call me. So anyways, he did. Well, 6 weeks later or so, he called, like 4 or 6 weeks later or something. He called, and I knew what he wanted. Let's go for lunch. And he come and work for us. And he worked for us for years, and he dispatched crews. He run jobs, dispatch crews, and did a heck of a good job of it. But he didn't know hardwood. He didn't know hardwood floor. He knew but he couldn't lay a floor. He couldn't finish a floor. But the guys respected him because he wasn't trying to teach them, and he wasn't trying to tell them. And he was a project manager, and he knew how to manage, and he knew how to schedule, and he knew how to coordinate. And man, did he make our life a lot easier. And it's the same old thing. You can't bring a contractor in and make him a businessman. It's tough to do. You can't make a sanding guy be a dispatcher. A guy, there's an old saying, you are in your life exactly where you're supposed to be. Like,
yeah,
that's why you're there, is because but like you said, though, you don't want to discourage everybody. You don't want to say, oh, don't ever do retail, because some of us have done very well at retail, but the biggest thing is it's a career change. It's a complete career change.
Craftsmen want to do craftsman stuff.
Exactly.
Craftsmen don't want to be sitting at a desk and pushing pencil, and they want to do craftsman things. But the problem is, I don't think they manage it good enough where they should be getting paid the way that they should be, because they're out there doing the craft. So,
and why is it every flooring contractor I know thinks he has to give a deal to get a job? It drives me crazy. Okay, this job, okay, $8 a square foot to sand fit. Oh, it's really good, and I really want the job.
All right, Ken, we're going to ask you to go back and listen to a bunch of our episodes, okay? We don't talk like that on this show. No. Everybody's in a race to the top who's listening to this show.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I wish.
Well, tell me how important a bookkeeper is. And a lot of people think that's an expense. Oh gosh, I got to add another expense to it. But why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because I think it's a game changer.
Well, I'll tell you how we do it. We're a little top heavy. Tim sits at the desk and he does data entry all day and takes care of all of our admin stuff. But then we have a bookkeeper that comes in every month and picks up everything for that month and through the QuickBooks and make sure it's right. And then everything's from there is handed on to accountant. I know it's probably top heavy, but I've learned in the past that you need to know your numbers. You need it's good numbers or bad numbers. You need to know. And if we're contractors and we're working and we're doing stuff, we like to fudge our numbers. We like to think we made more than we really did, or we like to think we did a little. But if you give that to a bookkeeper, she's going to give you your real numbers. She's going to tell you exactly what you did. And I remember arguing with, oh, no, I know I made more money than that last month. No, here it is, Ken. Here it is. It's black and white. Well, if you made more money, where'd the money go? But no, I know. I was so busy and we did this job. No, this is it. This is what it is. And you know what? It's important. It's really, really, really important. Well, you know what? It just screw up and let the government come after you. She's game over.
Here's why that is so important, and that's I think the most important thing you said today, and it's been great information. You can fall into the trap of thinking you made more money than you have, I think I'd say 80% of the people do it. And then the problem is that compounds. And if you start thinking, oh, I made this much on this job, and then you start adding all that up, it's a lot of money. And it would have gave you an opportunity to capture that money and find out, what am I doing wrong, where I'm not, what do I need to do? Do I need to raise my prices? Do I need to change my process? Do I look at smaller jobs and bid them completely differently? It's just so important that you do that.
So we're the same thing. We have a millwork shop that mills all our wood, and it's down the road. It's a ways away from our pre-finished plant, and we're looking at the numbers, thinking, the operating numbers are just too high. So we look at the rent. The rent $6,000 a month for that warehouse, right? And we're saying, man, how can we cut that rent down? And then we get looking at it. I pay one guy $7,000 a month. Rent is not my problem. Staffing is my problem. You gotta watch every nickel, and you can't just zone in on something because you think that's your problem. You gotta know where you're not. I look at my staff on my staffing that mill workshop, and I'm like, whoa, okay, how can I make this a little more efficient? Right, but going into it, the first thing you think, oh, rent's my problem. No, rent ain't my problem. I got guys, half my guys are making more money than the rent bill.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then the other thing you kind of can fall into the trap of, I've worked my butt off in this job. I deserve this nice Denali truck. I deserve this thing because I'm working 100 hours a week, and all that plays into it, man. So
you'll see it every time. Every time a guy opens a flooring store, he buys himself a new truck. Me too. Yeah. Been there, done that. But you do it. It's automatic. Hey, I gotta, and you sell it to yourself. You sell yourself. I gotta have that image. I gotta get the sticker on the truck. I can't drive around in a van doing estimates. I gotta have a nice truck. And I'm not just having a little truck. I'm a big truck. And I'm gonna have listen, I wrote the book on it. I've got the t-shirt, lost the t-shirt on that one many times. But I always say we all want to be the big shot in the hot tub. It's our nature. We all want to have the biggest crews, the biggest jobs, it's our drive. It's just our nature. It's Western world thinking.
Yep.
You were talking about hiring accountants, and I got a pretty good story about the accountant that we hired right around the same time we opened the store. We finally got audited about 4 years of this guy. We got called into the IRS building, and they started off the whole meeting with, the good news is there's not going to be any jail time for you or your partner.
Oh, that's a good part.
Yeah, that was the good news of the day. So you must have some pretty good stories too.
Well, first of all, you know how to hire an accountant, right?
No, I don't.
Okay,
actually.
Number one, this is the
clue.
First word interview with the accountant. What's 2 + 2? And if he says 4, he's fired right there.
Yeah.
His answer is supposed to be, what do you need it to be? That's a good accountant.
There you go.
Yeah, when you rotate as much floors and as many jobs and stuff as we have, crazy things happen, like really, really crazy. I'll tell you one that we wrote an article for here a while ago, and I'll tell you what it is. But so we did a job. This guy, he wanted us to do his house, the two floors, the top floor, main floor, and the top floor of his whole house. And that's back in the old sand and finish, 2 1/4 red out, select and better, sand and finish, the whole thing. He says, I'm going to Florida for a month. He says, I'm going to take all my furniture and put in the basement, everything. He said, I want you to come in here and I want you to hardwood the whole thing except for the bathroom and the laundry room. So we said, sure, absolutely. So we get going there. One of our crews, we had multiple crews then. So they laid all the floors and they got it all done. And then they're sanding away. And on the top floor, around the toilet flange in a half bath, the edger tilted down into the toilet flange a little bit and jumped across the floor and cut that water line right off.
Oh boy.
Right off, flush with the floor. So now we got half-inch water line hitting the roof, straight water coming straight up out of the roof. So the guys phoned me, says, Ken, this is what happened. I said, well, shut the water off. Well, we can't. The basement's full of furniture. We can't even open the door. It's full. I said, well, go around to the walkout and go in. We tried. We can't. It's full. I says, well, call the fire department. So they call the fire department. Fire department comes up, looks around. Well, we got to shut it off at the curb. Can't find it. Can't find the water shaft. So they call down to the fire department. They bring up a metal detector. They find it under the concrete driveway. So they can't shut the water. We're talking hours later, water's still running. There's nothing you can do.
Gosh.
So they call the city. The city comes out, does the same thing to what they do. Try to find it. No, can't find it. They say, well, let's start emptying the basement. Well, that basement was jammed. They'd be half a day emptying that basement. Well, water was coming down the stairs like a waterfall, and the ceilings were dropping, the cabinets were falling, everything was. So anyways, the city says, we're going to shut the water off for the subdivision. So, well, that's a bigger key. So we down to the dispatch yard, get the key, come back up, shut the water off. We're talking like 4.5 hours later, we got the water turned off to that whole subdivision. Well, we wrecked that house. It wrecked it. It wrecked everything in that house. No, there was no... The water in the basement was, the ceilings all fell down. It was the worst. I said, well, I guess we're not getting paid for that one, boys. Our insurance stepped in and took care of the whole thing. Our insurance did the whole thing. It was, I called that guy down in Florida. He actually was a former drummer of Bryan Adams.
Oh, all right.
So he was a really, really good guy. Like he says, Ken, he says, accidents happen. I get it. I get it. He says, I don't like it, but I get it. So, wow. And he was really good about it. And I just told him, I says, a whole bunch of multiples. One is if the basement wasn't full of water, first of all, we hadn't hit the water line. If the basement wasn't full of furniture, if the concrete wasn't over top of the water shut off, if like just 1, 2, 3, 4, and wow. Yeah, it hits it all of a sudden you're swallowing it. But yeah,
Pete and I had the almost same thing happen to us. We nicked the water line going through a refrigerator. So we go downstairs to turn it off, but a contractor, like a month before we got in there, had finished the basement. So they put sheetrock on the whole ceiling. Everything was completely covered. So we couldn't find the water. We had to call the fire department, and they came, turned it off. They found the place outside to turn it off. But
yeah,
I mean, I bet it was less than an hour before they turned the water off. But I couldn't believe the amount of water that was in that house in that 1 hour. I mean, it was just brutal.
Yeah. We one time we were we did this job for this guy, and we sanded and finished his whole main floor of his bungalow house. And he says, I don't really care about anything here. He says, except for one thing. And he holds up this Team Canada jersey that's signed by every hockey player in Team Canada.
What year?
This would have been about 98, 99. So whatever was just around that timing, could have been 2000 in there. So anyways, he's got this jersey with every player's signature. He says, I just don't want this jersey. He had to show me this jersey. I don't want this jersey hurt. I said, okay, no problem. So we go in to sand the whole main floor of his house. He had all the furniture cleaned out, everything cleaned out, ready to go. We resanded and finished the whole main floor. And he come into the shop the next day after we were done, and I thought he was going to kill us. He was so mad. He was 5 feet high and climbing. He was just, and holding this jersey. And that was back when you used oil-based finishes. And he hung that jersey in the middle of that basement so it wouldn't get damaged. And all of us guys have done it. A little bit extra finish at the front door. You just drop it into the hot air vent, and down it goes. And it hit the seam in that hot air vent and dripped out of the bottom of there, and what was hanging right underneath it was that jersey. And it went down and hit the jersey and run down and hardened about 4 inches off the bottom of that jersey. And it wrecked the jersey. And
Oh.
like, what is the chances of that whole basement? He hung that right under. I'm like, oh man, we're dead. We're
Oh.
dead.
Oh my
Jeez.
gosh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, they create some crazy stuff happens.
It's stories like that. That's why you keep all the hangers facing the same direction in your closet. If you got to get out in a hurry.
I had one of my guys come. This is quite a few years ago. Back when the oil, but like that's one thing I really like about the water base is you don't get the internal combustion in the sandbags anymore. Back then, I think I've lost 3 vans. We've lost a few houses. We've had stuff, but we're working in an area. I'm not going to say the area in case they figured it out.
Still looking.
Yeah, but one of my guys shows up at the shop at 7:15 in the morning, and I'm sitting at my desk, and he comes in. His eyes are like saucers. I says, "What are you doing, Kevin?" And he says, "I need to talk to you." I says, "What's going on? You're supposed to be putting a last coat on that floor." He says, "There's no house there no more." I said, "What?" He says, "I pulled onto the street, and there was nothing but fire trucks and police cars." I said, "What happened?" "I don't know." I says, "You left your sanding bags in that house, didn't you?" "Yeah." He says, "I left them at the front entry, just on the inside of the door in the front entry." And I says, "You got all your equipment out of there?" "Yeah, everything is out." I said, "Well, then shut up and don't say a friggin' thing." And you know what? We even got paid for the job. But nobody ever figured out that is why that house burnt. I never heard another thing about it.
Oh my God.
In a million years, it would never happen again.
No.
Oh, that's too funny.
Yeah. But when you rotate as much work as we rotated, stuff happens, right? You're in and out of a lot of situations, eh?
Well, and that's a good place to leave it as we're running up on the hour. A lot of cautionary tales there, a lot of experience, and I love the stories, man. Everybody's got it. I mean, the water story, I was getting anxious as you were telling it, man, because I could picture myself in that same situation. It's everybody's nightmare.
Yeah.
But really, thank you for coming on. I'd love to have you come on again as a guest sometime. I mean, you got a lot of knowledge and experience, and I appreciate you sharing with everybody. And again, we're not trying to scare anybody off, but just, I think you're better off going into anything eyes wide open.
No, you're absolutely right. And the last thing we want to do is not have no retail outlets, right?
Yeah.
So we're not trying to discourage anybody, but hey, we're only a phone call away too, right? Just pick up the phone. "Hey, Ken, we got this idea," or "Hey, or whoever, right? What do you think? Well, let's look at numbers on it. I've sat across a lot of coffee shop tables, and I'm not changing their plan. I'm just saying, here, this is what it is. This is where it's at. This is what I can tell you. If I wasn't manufacturing, there's not a chance in heck I'd have a showroom. There's no way. But our margins are good enough because we're cutting out all the middlemen, and the guy across the road is not selling what I got.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason that I have showrooms.
Interesting. Well, hey, Ken, thank you very much. It's been a great hour of discussion, and I think it'll help a lot of guys out, and appreciate it. If you don't mind, I might give you a shout one day to come back on, and I'm sure there's a whole lot of it, all years experience. Plus, I want to talk about down the road, Canada and bears up there and all kinds of other stuff.
Oh, we have our bears and you guys got your alligators. So.
Yeah. Florida.
It's funny. I go to Florida and they say, "Where are you from?" "Wow, grizzly bears." And I'm saying, "Where are you from?" "Florida." "Wow, alligators."
That's it. There you go. All right.
Good stuff.
This has been another episode of On the Floor with Wayne and Rob and Ken Petersen with Woody's Floors. And please do stay tuned for another episode.